Very pleasant good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Morning Briefing here on NoFilter.net, Caffeine TV, and the various other platforms that, I guess got roped into carrying the show. Jeff DeForest, along with one Mike Lubie Lubitz. Very happy Mike Lubie Lubitz, as some of his predictions are beginning to come true. We can see the light there. I was thumbing through my New York Post this morning, the sports section, and I'm happy to report, Lubie, there is no news of any Ranger fans going right downstairs from the Garden and jumping in front of a train, which, of course, still right there over Penn Station. There'd be many options there if you wanted to just say, hey, you know what, it's time to end it all. But I don't think you needed to go to those kind of extremes. Although it was kind of weird, Lubie, to see a hockey game at Madison Square Garden, first game of the Eastern Conference Finals, Rangers and the Panthers. The Panthers had beaten the Rangers in 2 of the 3 games that they played during the regular season, and had an overtime loss also. So right there with the Rangers, as good as the Rangers were all year long under Lavalette, they won the President's Trophy. That in and of itself is a curse that is very difficult to overcome. They've gotten past the point of the last 10 President's Trophy winners. That's the team with the best record overall, the most points during the regular season. And in the last 10 years, no team has made it out of the second round that has won the President's Trophy. It's just been an atrocity, but nonetheless, the Panthers win it last night, and instead of a celebration, you had a Simon and Garfunkel concert break out there, because that's the sounds of silence. You would have to say the Garden, the noise in there was flatter than the proverbial Parisian runway model, which somebody's now trying to dispute with me and saying that Parisian runway models are not necessarily, what would you say, not well endowed in that category. I still think, I mean, the freaky clothes that they wear, I mean, you can't afford to have anything but a stick figure. Hey, if you're betting these games, and you could have made a nice score last night on the Panthers and also on the Dallas Mavericks, who were not only getting points, but you could have made like 3-2 on the money line. BetOnline is your number one source for the NBA and NHL playoffs this season. Every stat, every matchup, and even live odds while the games are being played. Hey, we're down 1-0. You want to send it in on the other side? Good stuff. You got to love this. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on the game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on all the action. Don't forget to use the promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, that's all caps, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. You put in a dime, they give you $500. Not bad. Bet online. The game starts right here. All right, so we often talk about this, the whole misuse of the term pivotal when it comes to the postseason, because I believe every game is pivotal. Game 1 was pivotal last night. You lose game 1 on your home ice if you're the New York Rangers, guess what? Must-win situation. Game number 2, you would have to assume. Now, in hockey, we've seen, and it happened with the Dallas Stars, who are still alive, and will be hosting the opening game of the Western Conference Finals tonight against the Edmonton Oilers. They were down 0-2 on their home ice in the opening series of the Stanley Cup playoffs in the West, and they managed to overcome that, winning 4 of the next 5, and they've moved on and now seem to have ironed out whatever it was that was plaguing them in the early stages of the postseason. And so now are favored over the Edmonton Oilers, who are a little bit loosey-goosey, high-powered, high-scoring team. You got McDavid, you got Draisaitl, you have a lot of guys there that can really put the puck in the net. They play well together, a well-oiled machine, those Oilers, but nonetheless, the Stars are favored. And you would have to give a big leg up, Lubie, to your prediction. Were you saying Panthers in 7? Because I had the Panthers in 6, and that looks great right now. And is there reason to believe that things will be any different in game number 2, other than the fact that we've seen weird shit happen all throughout the postseason in both basketball and the National Hockey League? Reason to believe, Lubie.
Look, the Rangers are good, and Shesterkin's a good goalie. So night in, night out, things change. The Panthers controlled the entire action and got totally fucked on a goal. So I don't know why they couldn't do the same thing again. I mean, to me, it's what we've seen all playoffs. The Panthers have sort of controlled things, but that doesn't mean that they're going to automatically win. They get a look. They was shot for like 2-1. It might have been at 1.3 to 1 Panthers.
I think the Rangers had 3 shots altogether in the game. And 2 of those were on breakaways. Bobrovsky, he did stop like 22 shots or something like that. But it was very weak. The totals were completely lopsided early in the contest, at least through 2.5 periods. And I mean, it was sort of a dominant performance there by the Florida Panthers in the game. The
Yes.
Rangers never really got a leg up on any kind of momentum, and the crowd was flat as they could possibly be. No noise whatsoever. I mean, you could hear James Dolan screaming at Charles Oakley, "Get the fuck out of here!" as he tried to enter Madison Square Garden. That was it. So and that was interesting. Of course, as we said, Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals gets underway tonight. We're kind of vicariously following the David Portnoy bet of $150,000 before the postseason got started on the Edmonton Oilers to win it all, to win a million. I guess he wins like a 1,000,001 or something like that.
Yes, like that.
If he gets this thing, not too bad. But you never hear about the losing bets for these type of
No.
guys. How much money? You think Mayweather never loses a bet? I would imagine that's not the case, but you only see it when he has suitcases full of cash and he's leaving the windows there and goes, "Look at that! I bet $500,000 on Usyk." And I managed to cash a ticket. All right, baskets last night. The Dallas Mavericks. Dallas Mavericks. Wow. Are we overlooking the Mavericks? They were red hot at the end of the regular season, and they managed to work their way through the first two playoff rounds, and it looked like they had met their match. How is it possible that with two 7-footers in the lineup, including the 4 out of 5 year Defensive Player of the Year in Rudy Gobert, and Karl Anthony Towns, also 7 feet plus, how is it that Dallas dominated the points in the paint statistic in this game last night? Just driving right into the middle there and saying, hey, big guys, watch this. Kyrie Irving, very interesting. 24 points, carries the Mavs, keeps them in the game through the first half. He only had 6 in the second half, but didn't need to because Luka got hot. Yeah. And the Mavericks pull away and win at 108-105, taking game 1 on the road against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Again, we get back to this, Lubie. Just last week, we were singing, "I can see clearly now, the game has become easy to predict." Just as you're thinking the Minnesota Timberwolves really have it together after they rally and win 2 games in a row against the Denver Nuggets while their backs were against the proverbial wall. Holy Gary Gilmore. I mean, they're facing a firing squad here, about to be eliminated. And sure enough, they find a way to bounce back. And I'm thinking, all right, they're going to handle the Mavericks pretty easily. And they lose game 1, 108-105, a strong performance. Irving has changed dramatically. What happened to the Kyrie Irving that we were talking about? The guy that was distributing copies of Mein Kampf on the sidelines there. Would come to the arena. Everybody else is, kind of competing to see who's going to have the biggest fashion statement. And he's wearing a shirt that has Das Boot on it, talking about how there's no climate change and the earth is flat. What happened to that nut job? I mean, he's just settled into a guy that seems to be instrumental in anything good that happens to the Dallas Mavericks. And we've heard scant little about any kind of controversy or any kind of nutcase philosophies that he wanted to espouse and profess to the public there and proliferate ideas that are completely foreign to any type of logic. What happened to that guy?
I mean, after the lunatic fringe stuff, I think he got forgotten. I mean, he became that crazy guy that was in Dallas playing or barely playing, and people stopped talking about him. And I guess that allowed him to just shut the fuck up and focus on basketball. Again, I don't care if athletes talk, but you better play first. I don't want to hear you talking if you're not playing. And he wasn't playing at all. He was all over the fucking place. And it feels like he focused himself again and is putting his mind on basketball. Look, the guy can play. No one questioned his abilities. He just is fucking weird. But again, you can be weird and be great. And we're seeing that. We're seeing him put his focus into basketball. And the Dallas Mavericks are up 1-0 in the West. There's nothing about those. I look at their PJ Washington's look, the 13 points is what he is. He's not a third guy on a team that's trying to win a title. Their roster outside of those 2 guys is and they just keep winning. I mean, Luka and Kyrie carry them, and it seems to be working. I don't know what happened with Towns and Gobert. Really didn't do much last night. Edwards had a nice game, but not a great game. That's my fear with this team. The young guys look. The Pacers the other night beat themselves. Celtics sucked. The Pacers had the refs totally against them, and we're turning it over every other possession, and still should have won. If the Pacers just played with any maturity at the end of the game, they win by 7 or 8. That's the problem with the young teams as you get to this point. Not about the moment or any of that crap. It's just they lose themselves, and the T-Wolves are starting. You saw that in the Nuggets series. Every game was a different game. The Mavs have been pretty consistent the whole goddamn playoffs. As much as we ignore them, they really have.
Doesn't Doncic look like somebody that should be easily stopped?
Yes, 100%.
He really does. He looks like the fat kid that should be in the corner going, don't shoot the ball, whatever you do. And every now and then you're pressed so hard because nobody's covering this guy that you have no choice but to throw the ball off into the corner. He looks like that guy.
100%.
They had Anthony Edwards on him a good portion of the time last night. And you were right about that, Lubie. This kid's not afraid to take on the biggest challenge, unlike the guy that you like to rip all the time because he doesn't do anything at the defensive end. And that is Jalen Brunson, who was beaten out for the All-NBA team by Jason Tatum of the Celtics. But Tatum automatically gets just an incredible amount, an overdue amount of acclaim, doesn't he? Is it because he's a Celtic? Everybody wants him to be the second coming of Larry Bird. I don't know. He's an excellent player. There's no doubt about it. Would you want him on your team? Probably yes. But was he better this year than Jalen Brunson? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That's a tough one. But you knew if somebody was going to get the nod, Brunson was somehow going to get screwed. So another reason for the New York fans to be outraged by the idea that they're being ignored, even though they have to dig themselves now out of this hole. Celtics and the Pacers tonight. What are the bookies trying to tell you here? The Pacers, as you just brilliantly and eloquently outlined, Mike Lubitz, the Pacers by all rights, and you could say this, there was a guy named David Feldman who used to write for the Chicago Sun-Times, and he wrote a book about horse racing, shoulda, woulda, coulda, which is what you're always saying. How many times have you heard this? I should have bet the 6. I can't believe I didn't do it. How did I leave out the 5? Shoulda, woulda, coulda. That's the lament of every gambler. Oh, my God, I can't believe I played the Knicks. Every gambler's got the shoulda, woulda, coulda syndrome. But, I mean, they shoulda, woulda, coulda won that game, right? The Pacers, by all rights. I mean, there are a million equations that you could have and things that you could have stuffed into the computer to come out with who won that game. And of those, like 999,000 would have said the Pacers win this game. And yet, even with all of that, the bookies are giving them 9 points tonight. Well, what do you think, Lubie? What is the suggestion there? And this is a team, Boston, that looked great in the first game at home in their first couple of series, only to lose outright in stunningly bad fashion the second game of the series. So what do you think? I mean, how could you not take the 9 points with the Pacers in this game tonight?
People are doing this thing where I guess they're like, well, the Pacers had their shot and they blew it. No, they played like shit. Like Turner, Halliburton, and
2 turnovers in the last 27 seconds of the game. Plus the atrocity of allowing Jaylen Brown to get that corner jump shot off.
I mean, look, they had nice games. None of those 3 guys had great games. And they had lots of turnovers and they were all dumb. It wasn't Boston great. Like they would have room to work and just dribble it off their fucking foot. Like the one guy had it and fell down and no one was even around him and he just fucking fell down with like a minute left. Halliburton in overtime down 1 when they had been scoring every time they touched the ball, took it toward the out of bounds line, which is who does that? Why would
he handed the ball to like Kevin McHale. I mean,
it was I don't know. So like they're going, well, that was their one chance and they blew it. No, it was the opposite. It was a 23-3 free throw advantage at the end of regulation. They had 15 turnovers and 13 of them were just stupid ass turnovers. And like 4 of them came at the end of the game in an overtime. That wasn't their best shot. They actually played like shit and should have and had a 3-point lead with fucking 10 seconds left with the ball. Like, I don't understand when people keep wanting to
and a timeout. You pointed that out yesterday. I mean, why not call a timeout if you're struggling to get the ball in bounds? Still have one, and what would have made perfect sense rather than just say, okay, they have to be at least on 6 on the 5-second count. So why don't I just shove the ball into the backcourt there and hope my guy gets it? Pretty ugly. 9 points seems like 90 points, doesn't it? What's wrong with this equation? When it looks too easy, it never is, right?
Well, the people keep wanting to make look. The Celtics are there, and they're the class of the East because of the injuries. Like if you look, and
because the East largely sucked this year.
Yeah, I get it. Like this weird place they put the Celtics. Like the Celtics, and I get it. The Nuggets were the team I put there, and they're not even around anymore. So maybe no team is that great right now. But like the Pacers are a young team that I don't think really belong here. They've gotten hot, and they've had a lot of advantages from injuries themselves. Like. The Celtics should have won that game by 20 something. Like the fact that was a game and the Pacers were so outshot free throw wise and were so bad turnover wise
and opened up down 12 zip.
Yes, it's more on the Celtics. Like this idea, well, the Celtics now are going to get it together. What are you talking about? What are you watching?
I
Like,
keep going as I'm thinking about making a wager in tonight's game. I keep going back to Rick Pitino. Larry Bird's not walking through that door, my friend.
well,
Kevin McHale's not walking through that door. He may be in the stands, but he's not walking through
it's
that
fine.
door.
They'll probably win the series, but this
Yeah.
idea that they're just going to blow the doors off, that should have been game one. That at home, TD Garden, Boston. Literally, the refs were on your. They were on your fucking bench.
Rested for a decent number of days, not an inordinate amount of time where you're going to have a lot of ring rust. I mean, it should have been a perfect scenario.
But to me, this idea that they're just going to blow the doors off I'm like, okay.
I'm taking the 9 points tonight, Lubie.
Yeah,
we may regret this. We may be if we do the show tomorrow with egg dripping from our nostrils. Then I can't imagine that 9 points. What was the spread on this ball game after watching what we did in game number one?
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
People are doing that. Well, the Celtics will rally now, and it's over. It's like, what did you watch? The Pacers were not scared. The Pacers literally were giving them the game and still hung around. Like it was the weirdest fucking thing. Like how are you not invigorated if you're a Pacer? Like to me, moral victories definitely in the playoffs don't count. But I would have walked away from that game going, "Fuck, that was our game." Like I wouldn't go, "Oh, shucks." Well, at least we're here. Like this team is not playing like that. This team is coached by a guy who's won a fucking title, who's coached by a guy who won a title with a team that was worse than the team that it was playing. Like this Pacer team has rose to every occasion. To me, this spread is spitting in their fucking face, and I think it's a joke.
It really is. I mean, it's like a big in the face of the Indiana Pacers and their fans. A loogie flying out there from 3. You can hear Mike Breen bang.
Exactly what that feels like.
Such ugliness. All right, Caitlin Clark still searching for her first victory. WNBA. Did they play every night? The Indiana Fever? Are they the only team in the league?
I don't know.
It's a team that hasn't won a game. They're on TV every night. And they lose last night. They're getting closer. They lose last night to Seattle, 85-83. Caitlin Clark making a pretty good account of herself, 21 points, 7 boards, 7 assists in a ball game, but yet to win a game. 0-5 with the Indiana Fever. I think that Fever is getting to be about 102, maybe 103. Exactly. At this point, it's getting to be developing a little level of concern. Now, would it not, that they're never going to win a game, although getting close? So the Caitlin Clark story, she continues to rivet eyeballs to WNBA stats. I mean, when would you ever think that I would be searching for a WNBA score? And then actually examine the box score of the game to see what one particular player did. I've never done that before in my life in preparing for a show. And now, I don't know, how long is it going to be must-see TV before people look at it and go, well, wait a minute, this girl's just as good as she is, as talented, as wonderful as it is. She's brought all this attention to the women's game. She's essentially not overly influential cog in a wheel that is broken to begin with. And that would be the Indiana Fever.
She's average, which she is right now. Maybe she's not bad, but she's definitely been average. If she's average, how much are you going to pay attention to it? Like,
how long does it last, Lubie? I mean, this isn't Fernando Mania, is it? I mean, we're talking about one season into the next. I don't know, but we'll see. And taking nothing away from her, I'm the last one that wants to jump on the let's demean Caitlin Clark bandwagon, because what she's done has been great. It's fantastic, but very hard to perpetuate that when all of a sudden you've stepped up in company. We've seen that. And it's hard to imagine. With the number of bricks and air balls and turnovers and sloppy scrums for rebounds that hit the ground before they're actually retrieved by one team or the other, you would have to say that it's a double-edged sword, right? You want the play to be great, and then you're watching the game, and it really looks like a kid's game. It just does. You're seeing a bunch of 7-year-olds in the park. They can't reach the basket unless they're standing on a box. There you go. I couldn't help myself. I mean, we're going to be just ruled out by anybody that has even the slightest lean towards the women's movement. And we don't mean to sound that way at all, because I'm all for it. I wish it was better. I really do. I wish it was better.
I agree.
But I am at least researching it a little bit, so it's become somewhat of an essential. I guess from a subconscious standpoint, you would have to say that Caitlin Clark has had an incredible impact on the WNBA, because I bet a lot of you guys out there are doing the same thing. taking a look at the scores there, or at least tuning into a game or two and seeing what this woman can do. All right, now we have to get out of here. A lot of fun being with you. Oilers and the Stars. What do you think, Lubie? Any opinion on that?
Oilers.
Oilers to win it on the road. Okay, you're
Yes.
getting points, or you're getting odds on that, as you're getting 110 on 100 on the Oilers in this game, and you got to lay 130 to win 100 on the Dallas Stars. I don't know what to make of that one. We'll look forward to game 2. And that'll be tomorrow night between the Rangers and the Panthers. We have the Panthers maybe winning the Stanley Cup. I'm looking forward to drinking a margarita right here in South Florida.
Yes.
Out of the Stanley Cup. I'm hoping one of the players will bring one around here to my digs in Lauderdale by the Sea, and we'll all be drinking margaritas on the beach out of the Stanley Cup. That would be great. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. Everybody, we'll see you tomorrow, Degenerate Friday edition of the program, although I think every day is a degenerate day here on the morning briefing. For Mike Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. The next edition right here on Caffeine TV and all our other outlets and on other platforms of the morning briefing.